You're back with me, Steve, here at Rusty Crusty Classics. And today I'm in the middle of a field in the southeast of England with a young man called Charlie that many of you will recognise. So firstly, good late afternoon, and thanks for the tea, as always.
Of course.
Can you introduce yourself and tell us about your channel?
Well, my name is Charlie, I'm 27 and I have a channel called Hudson Auto Films where I build weird, rusty, always rusty cars.
Best way, yeah.
Absolutely, it's the only way I know, and can't seem to learn that I should probably spend a few £100 extra to get some things which are less rusty, but
Where's the fun in that?
exactly, don't learn a thing.
So, going back to when you started doing this kind of thing, what inspired you to start the YouTube channel, and how did you get into filmmaking and cars and balancing those two things?
I think what started the car thing, I always liked cars. My dad had a couple of classic cars. He had a TR4 and a Morris Minor, which for a lot of my childhood didn't work. And then,
as always,
exactly. But he bought them in, I think the TR was 63, and he got that in 1970-ish. So the cars had been in his life for a long time. And by the time I came around, they'd been sitting in the shed for a long time.
So you were familiar with them being there forever?
Exactly, so they'd always been there. And at some point he had them brought up to mechanical scratch. So that was always interesting. So the first car I drove around was the TR4 around sort of a meadow next to our house, which sounds
not
really...
this field.
No, not this one. It sounds really sacrilegious. It was very flat and sort of well taken care of field.
Yeah.
So I think cars were always around and I was always interested in them, but I'd never touched them really. It always seemed like a bit of a unknown quantity until I was maybe 17. My first car was a Land Rover Defender, a 1990.
Proper rusty.
Yeah, again, quick side note, this was back when a Defender could be a first car. Dad paid, I think it was £1,000 for it, and with that, actually it was fairly solid. It passed its MOTs, all that sort of thing. Market's ridiculous now for those. But I think I was a bit frustrated at school, and one evening I came home and just wanted to do something practical and not academic.
Yeah.
So the floors were metal and they just looked, I thought I want to paint those. So I thought I'll take them off to paint them, you just unscrew them. And sort of 6 or 7 hours later, I dismantled the whole interior. And this was maybe 1 in the morning by this point, and I had to drive to school the next day. So through YouTube, I started figuring out how to put it all back together.
So you got yourself lost in a cloud of rust dust and a river of penetrating fluid.
Precisely, yeah. And so that's what started it. And I suppose that's ultimately what led to the YouTube, is I was learning everything through YouTube. And then I started discovering car YouTubers, that this was a thing. It took me several years to actually end up making the channel, but that's how it all sort of started.
Cool. And can you share a bit about your personal background? Like, where did you grow up? Not your address exactly.
Yeah.
What hobbies did you have as a child? Do you think they're relevant to what you do now?
So initially I grew up in the Midlands. I was born in Kettering.
Oh, yes.
So spent time there, and then moved to East Anglia, and that's where I spent most of my life really. I suppose being in always rural environments, because you've got to find your own fun, and I always did outside, and so that probably encouraged it a bit. Other hobbies though, music, that's what my career was until relatively recently.
So you're a musician?
I tried to be.
Yeah.
But obviously I had a career change, so it didn't pan out, but I still really enjoy that. But yeah, I suppose hobbies were always just making things. There's always sheds around with tons of scrap in it, so fiddling, building stuff, dicking around outside really.
So did your passion for cars and filmmaking like develop from your first experience with your the rusty old Land Rover? And
I think so, yeah. I don't know if I can stretch to say what I do is filmmaking. but I think the cars definitely started there because it was like, okay, I need to put this car back together. I can't remember what I've done, so I had to learn through the videos of other people putting Land Rovers back together, and then that unlocked this. Oh, there's people who their whole life is making YouTube videos about cars.
Of course.
So then that sort of created the interest in it because I had no idea that existed before I was 18 or 17, 18.
Yeah.
And then I got really into car YouTube.
Cool.
Yeah.
Are there any personal experiences or milestones other than reaching 100,000 followers? Which, of course, congratulations on that.
Thank
Your
you.
plaque is probably in the post as we
Yeah,
speak.
actually arrived yesterday.
Oh, awesome!
Yeah.
We're gonna have to show that at
Yeah.
some point. But are there any kind of other milestones or experiences that significantly shaped your journey as a content creator?
I suppose it almost the for a long time I'd say what was more important was the lack of milestones. The channel took for a long time nobody was watching,
Yeah.
and I still really enjoyed making the content, which I hadn't up until that point. I started the channel purely for, you know, because I wanted to. There was no other sort of. I never expected anybody to watch,
Yeah.
and I suppose the biggest impact was for a long time nobody was watching. Yet I still wanted to put a video out every week because I just enjoyed it.
Now that is where I think a lot of creators go wrong. They come in with the wrong ideas that they're going to make the channel to have subscribers, and when they have no subscribers and they realise no one's watching, they're putting the effort in just for that purpose.
Yeah,
And they're not getting anywhere. They give up very soon.
yeah,
Whereas you went in thinking, well, no one's watching, so I'll do what I want to do.
yeah,
And I enjoy making it, and people started watching.
exactly. And I think that's the only way it can be sustainable. You've got to really enjoy it and just be happy if nobody watches. And the channel's had lots of ups and downs, and
Yeah.
for ages nobody was watching. Then there'd be these random spikes on videos, and you think, wow, this is really exciting. But you've got to be prepared that. And even in this position right now, the channel has grown a lot over the last couple of months. We were talking about it earlier. I still very much plan that in a month's time nobody will be watching, but I still will post a video. So you've got to really enjoy it.
So your outlook for the future is, no matter what happens, you're still going to be producing content that you enjoy making.
Yeah,
And if people enjoy watching it, that is the bonus.
absolutely. I think, you always. The only thing which slightly changed recently is I would like everything to continue because it enables me to build things that I want to build. Whereas always a previous limitation was I really want to do this thing, but I can't afford to do it at all.
Of course.
So I suppose that it's a funny one, but at the same time you can't just make content to try and you don't want to try and lean into what you think people want, because then eventually you'll just bug yourself.
Yeah.
But it's that fine line, isn't it?
If you chased every comment that everyone made and tried to please 100% of the people 100% of the time, you wouldn't be making anything.
Well, I think that one thing that's been interesting as well, as the channel's grown a lot over the last couple of months, it's still small fish in comparison to in the YouTube landscape, but I've seen more negativity than ever because it's just by volume. It's still overwhelmingly positive, but you actually doesn't really faze me because it just, I don't know, you just become a bit numb to it. You just think, bugger it.
I think part of it also is that you're not doing it for their pleasure. As you set out to do this not for the ratings and not for the fame and fortune, you set out to do it because you enjoy doing it. So nothing will stop your enjoyment.
Yeah, absolutely.
So that's a good position to be in.
Yeah, I think so.
So moving on slightly, what's your creative process? Talk us through what goes through your mind. Let's say when you see a crazy car out there on whatever system it's on, Facebook Marketplace or whatever, and you think, I know I shouldn't, but I want to get that car. What's your creative process like when creating the content for the channel?
I suppose when I look for cars, I'm always looking anyway. I always have been long before YouTube. It's sort of, a lot of people have, get quite addicted to social media. I've never really struggled, with scrolling through short form content or anything like that, but I do have a problem with Facebook Marketplace.
Of course.
So I'm always just looking, and it's amazing how much turns up all the time. So I suppose I'll see something ridiculous, and if I really want it, I'll try my absolute best to get it, even if that often isn't logical, because I've got another car which needs finishing, which I'm complaining about not being able to afford parts for it. Somehow it's easier to figure out to spend £1,000 on another rusty car than it is to figure out that money to fix.
£100 on one that needs
Yeah.
£100 spending on it.
I don't know how it works, that economics, but
That's called the logic of obsessive car collecting.
yeah.
Yeah, which we all suffer from. But
Yeah.
I'm sure lots of people watching this also have that problem. I'm sure therapy is available through your local therapy source.
You'd hope it should be.
Yeah, if it isn't, try the NHS.
Yeah.
Can you just share the challenges that you faced when starting out? For example, I'm starting out. I'm not producing a lot of content, but I'm enjoying doing the process. It's not particularly, like you said, it's not for the views.
Yeah.
I'm just kind of cutting my teeth on it.
Mm.
What advice would you give when starting out, and how did you overcome the hurdles? Let us know what hurdles were, of course, but how did you overcome these?
I think initially when I first started, I thought everything had to be really perfect, and that initially I wasn't doing a video every week, and it's sort of been up and down on that front, but early on I wanted everything to be perfect, and that resulted in me, most of my early videos just being talking about what I plan to do.
Yeah.
So I think actually with car stuff it's just about getting it done as best as you can in that situation.
So maybe the visuals of things happening
Yeah.
are more important than words.
Yeah, I think so. And I also think when you're, my videos are still not like crazy productions. I watch some car YouTubers, I'm like, bloody hell, that's insane what you're doing. But you can't, I think again, it's one of these things that stop people from progressing, is they see the level of content out there, and then they watch their first few videos and think, oh, this is crap.
I can't match that.
Yeah,
Sort of thinking.
and I mean, even especially the first half of the Nova series, it's worth noting all of that was filmed on iPhone and edited on my iPhone.
Yep.
So it doesn't have to be crazy quality, you just have to get it done.
Good.
Yeah.
Yeah. Get out there and make it.
Yeah.
Don't
absolutely.
worry about it, just make it.
Yeah.
You'll get feedback anyway.
Exactly, yeah.
So have there been any specific projects or videos that you're particularly proud of, and why?
I think the 4x4 Aston series has been, I think that was a really big milestone for me, because it was just this silly idea of, I bought the body shell for peanuts off eBay, and I thought, that's too cheap to get crushed.
Yeah.
And you're too nice to be crushed, and I got that here.
It's an Aston after all.
Exactly. I thought, I'll do something with it. And what was most logical was still ludicrous, but it became a running, driving car. So I think for me personally, outside of even the videos, that was a big achievement, that this stupid thing could actually work.
Well, this isn't logical, is it, really? But it's just,
No.
It's an idea that you put out there, and is there actually an off-road 4x4 Aston that's, running around in the country?
No.
Not that we know of, so
Yeah.
let's do one.
Exactly, yeah.
That's a good idea.
And that got to the point, obviously, running, driving, the build has slowed down for a variety of reasons, but the concept was proven, which I think was really important.
Of course, that is a very important thing. Being able to drive it is the biggest part of any part of any car restoration or improvement kind of process.
Exactly, yeah.
The moment you get in that and drive what you've made,
Yeah.
that's the ultimate kind of accolade, isn't it?
Yeah, and I think actually that I'm sort of not taking my own advice, because the issue with that build, what slowed it down, was it was sort of the dry build, so to speak, of seeing if it's possible. Then I stripped everything down to make everything really nice.
Yeah.
And actually, that's what slowed it down, is the cost involved in that.
We've spoken about these things before, haven't
Yeah.
we, where you only replace what's absolutely necessary.
Yeah.
Because otherwise, you're spending 10 times how much you've bought the car for on putting it back together.
Exactly, and I think that there's actually a single part which has held the build up, which is the rear quarter. Had accident damage in the back, and getting one of those, buying one for a hard top is £600, which is already really expensive. It's a convertible car.
Yeah.
Just that one piece is £2,000, which up to this point is more than I've spent on buying the Land Rover, buying the body shell, putting them all together, all of the bits and bobs. Like,
And if you drove it down the road just viewed from one side,
yeah,
you wouldn't know.
exactly, yeah, yeah. So it's but it's things like that. Yeah, so it is coming back, but I've had to sort of re-examine it again. It's sort of, I think the whole point of the channel, the more I realise, again, you can't measure yourself against other people. I think I wanted to strip it down and make it really nice because everybody else makes everything gleaming. But I realise there's probably a middle ground where it still looks really cool, but it didn't cost £20,000 to make it that way.
Something just above Scrap Heap Challenge.
Exactly, Scrap Heap Challenge with some paint.
Something to aim for, yeah.
Yeah, exactly, yeah.
It works.
Yeah, exactly.
And then you go. So have you noticed any trends with what your viewers are most interested in and regarding the automotive content you produce?
I think if I could, good question. The more rubbish the car is, the more people enjoy it, and I'm exactly the same. Because you sort of think it's so satisfying, but you also think this is never going to work.
So the more wacky,
yeah,
the better.
Yeah, and I think that's another thing as well. The one thing which in the early stage of the channel, I was still working on cars I liked, but the cars I've always really liked are bizarre kits and really things which are so frowned upon. But it turns out, and the Nova and the last couple of cars are proof of concept, these weird cars people do have a soft spot for, whether it's they remember them, whether it's they've never seen anything like that, whether they hate them. It doesn't matter, it's still a moment of...
It's got extreme reactions all across the spectrum.
Exactly, and I think for me, these weird old cars, I think they're brilliant. I think the whole ethos behind them is even more brilliant, how people just went out and did things and started car companies in their sheds. Even though some of them were crap, it's better than, I don't know,
doing nothing.
Exactly, precisely. So yeah, that seems to, people seem to, for whatever reason, be as interested in them as I am.
Yeah. There's a lot of people out there that are.
Yeah.
Which is a good thing.
Yeah.
In my view.
Yeah, definitely.
So how do you balance your work with your personal life? We call this work, of course. It isn't particularly work, it's more of fun.
Yeah.
Do you have any strategies for managing downtime? That's if you have any downtime. Doesn't seem to me you ever would do.
At the moment, I don't have a balance at all.
No.
For a long time, I was doing a video every 2 weeks, and that was very manageable. And so I'd recommend that. That's a good way of doing it, because there was certainly enough time. I mean, I was also doing other work as well. But now, I don't know, I think because the channel started to grow, I'm leaning into it. I've gone full time.
Yep.
And so right now, I feel incredibly privileged that that opportunity has arisen. So I'm just going at it as hard as I can.
You're going flat out.
Yeah. And it's really funny because it's you're working 7 days a week, very long hours, 6 a.m. till late at night, and you're left with this sort of 30-minute video, which makes everything look easy.
It does.
Yeah. Even when you show the hard bits, that's just, it's you don't see the hours doing voiceover stuff, the hours that take to film sponsor segments. And again, I'm not complaining, it's all an absolute privilege, but right now I don't have a balance.
It is a lot of work, isn't
it? I have so much respect for people who make, car content. I think it's one of the hardest types of content to make. And I think there's people who do it much better than I do and are much more prolific than I am. So I think
there are easier ways.
Yeah.
And that's where people contact you and say, I've got a car, can you come and look at it?
Yeah.
And you go, you speak to them, you film the car, you take it for a drive. That's content. That's a very easy way to make car content, but when you're literally doing all the hands-on work and it's intense labour, parts break, things go wrong.
I think that's it as well. It's the physical element. It's one thing spending a lot of hours doing something, but when it has that physical toll as well, it's intense. But again, not complaining. I feel incredibly privileged that I can do this, at least for this moment in time, that it will pay my rent.
One good thing is, at your age, you can do that.
Yeah.
you can crack on 7 days a week, getting loads done,
Yeah.
and carry on another week.
Yeah. Exactly.
Yeah, I'm sure lots of people in this watching this video, and your supporters, they're more my age group, where you do a couple of hours, then you just want to have a nap. So yeah, you are lucky, and you're coming into the right age. I wish I'd started a lot younger. I was in the industry,
Yeah.
but I wasn't doing what I wanted to do, what I love.
Yeah.
So crack on, well done.
Thank you.
Your wife recently appeared on
She
an
did.
episode. Did a bit of a special appearance, guest appearance.
Yep.
Feedback seemed very positive. Is it likely we'll be seeing her more on your channel, maybe getting her hands dirty?
I'd like her to be more on the channel. I always try and convince her, but she will definitely be back. Yeah, the reaction was good. I think Leah did help out a little bit on the 4x4 Aston episodes, which was really great. I think people are always a little bit surprised because a lot of people who, again, she was in a niche of YouTube and music, so lots of people are like, oh, what's she doing in a field in England? So
Well, she popped up in that.
yeah, that's a weird collaboration, but yeah.
But it is, it spins out a lot more interest as well. And do you know the old adage that people say, I've heard anyway, that couples who wrench together stay together.
Really?
Yeah.
I haven't heard that. I'll have to relay that on.
Yeah. So dirty hands.
Yeah.
It all works.
Exactly.
Yeah. So what changes, if any, do you see happening in the automotive industry that excite you?
As in the broader, the whole...
The current automotive industry. The directions it's going, what... Is there anything that excites you? Is there anything that's exciting about these electric cars coming out of China, for example?
I think the only thing that is electric that has interested me, and it's not because I think, oh, I hate electric cars. I just don't know anything about them. I like carbs. That's my niche. That's what I've learned.
So you like what you can see and smell?
Exactly, yeah. And I think that's, again, what started my interest in cars was Dad's old cars, and that was a whole sensory experience going into this buggered old shed and these two old cars which were equally as buggered in there, and you'd smell them, and it all seemed exciting.
There's nothing different, nothing the same, I should say, as the smell of an old car that's been sat around for a while with the petrol going slightly off, the leather interior, for example, not in a Land Rover, of course.
Yeah.
But I don't think modern cars give that.
No, they don't.
Ever.
They don't, and I think, again, I don't have any sort of problem with electric cars. I'm not one of those. I think it's really cool how the amazing technology, how fast they are. I think that's all great. I love the idea of sort of autopilot, and it's all cool sci-fi stuff, but it's not my thing. I did see that car, I can't remember if it's BYD or someone else, that bounces around and jumps. And have you seen that?
I haven't seen that. Is that a pogo car or something?
It's weird. I thought it was BYD, but it's like a supercar which can hop around. It can turn like that, and yeah,
it can spin on its own axis, basically.
Yeah, and it's I thought that was cool, but yeah,
good for a party piece.
Exactly, yeah. But in terms of the only thing which has genuinely excited me recently is that the powers that be in the UK have given a bit more leniency on restoring chassis.
Of course, yeah.
And I think really it hasn't helped that much, but I think what should be encouraged is like we see in other countries, fixing things.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, because someone complained to me recently about, I have these gas guzzling old cars. I thought, well, but this car has been around. First of all, I don't do many miles in them, so that's one thing. But also, these cars have been around for such a long time. Their imprint, they've paid themselves off many times. It's better to keep these things on the road rather than the massive impact that it is to create something new.
Well, I think I did read quite a long time ago that the amount of energy, CO2 output, it takes to create a new car is intense.
Yeah.
It's incredible. So if you then run that car for 20 years, you're putting very, very little, burning very little energy, producing very little CO2 or whatever, compared to its production. So the longer you can run it, the smaller your imprint's going to be. if you chop and change it, scrap that car, get a new one, you're just massively stepping up
Yeah,
the amount of energy that's being used for your own personal benefit.
yeah, absolutely. So again, I'm sure there's people who, you know, will disagree with me, and I have no really strong opinions about these things because I don't know enough about the whole, you know, scope of it. But I do think it is a good idea just to keep these old cars on the road and keep using them.
Save the world, drive a banger.
Exactly. Yeah.
Good idea.
Yeah. I'll sell you one.
You've got plenty.
Yeah.
So thinking for a moment about your ultimate dream car,
Mm.
and it's one that drives.
Yeah.
Okay. If you could have any production car for sale at the moment, or build your own car out of any components ever made,
Mm.
what would you do and what would it be?
I think I would either have. There's four things which spring to mind.
Yeah.
One is a Vector. Have you come across those?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
And there was recently a bunch of barn or garage finds of those, I think, in the States. Those are really cool.
Yep.
The right answer to the next one is a real Lola, but there was also, you could get these kits
Yeah.
on Beetle chassis,
Yeah.
which look like Lola, and that sort of, I love that era of design and that sort of racing style. The Lamos, I just think it's, so I'd love something like that.
Is that so you could mess around with it and not feel guilty?
Yeah, and I think that's a big part about why I think the kits are cool, is you can, it's not, well, it's not them pretending to be something they're not, it's the fact you can build them however you want and make them as powerful as a real supercar of its era.
Yeah. Which weren't particularly powerful for those people watching,
exactly.
who are saying that's not a supercar, it doesn't have 1,000 horsepower.
Yeah, that's another topic, that my use of the word supercar.
They didn't have thousands of horsepower
No.
in the 70s.
But I think, yeah, it's the fact you can drive them, you can do things to them, you can get them, take them on long trips, bugger around with them, and just have no sort of, not care, but it doesn't impact the value, it doesn't, it's...
You're not destroying a piece of automotive history.
Yeah, the whole point is, from day one, they were built to be changed and to be tinkered with. You also, by working on it, you're just continuing the exact ethos that built it.
Yep, absolutely. Absolutely. So what can we expect from Hudson Auto Films in the upcoming months then?
Finishing the Nova.
Yeah.
I would like to think the Nova could be finished sort of very early next year. From a mechanical point of view, I think there's finish and there's finish. There's all the finishing work, which takes a long time getting things set up right, but sort of...
You mean driving?
Yeah.
Yeah, because a kit car is never finished.
Exactly. I'd like it to be driving and looking relatively smart, early next year.
Yeah.
So that's one thing. The 4x4 Aston is coming back.
Yay.
I've got a new sort of path for it. I figured out how to overcome some of the expensive issues, because again, even though the channel has grown, I can't just be spending £2,000 on a panel, and just like that's
I don't think anyone would actually consider that for a car that's built by themselves.
No, but even so, it's just that's like a couple of months of rent. So what else though? The Carlton is going to be finished. That literally, the funny thing is, the Carlton, I was so enthused by it,
Yep.
and I still am. But I was waiting. I had to buy the manual gearbox, which hasn't been shown yet, and it cost a lot. That was a fortune for what it is, because it's really hard to get them. You can get a lot of the Rover V8 gearboxes, but they're all set up for Land Rovers.
Yep.
To get one which came out of a Vitesse or an SD1 is hard.
I've got one.
Oh, now I know.
Didn't know
I
that.
didn't. Yeah. But I was really enthused by that, and I was waiting. I was saving up the money. I need an extra week to be able to afford that gearbox.
Yeah.
So I thought, I'll just drop this video on the Nova,
And then it blew up.
and then everything changed. So the Carlton is still very much happening, but there's this funny thing is when people say, "Oh, why don't you finish things?" It's like, well, we finished the Banham. That's just a silly little fun car. 4x4 Aston was my own paralysis of it's got to be perfect. But now that's well on the way. The Carlton, I stopped that because of this, and then my thought was I need to run with the Nova because then I can actually afford to finish the Carlton better than by, you know what I mean? So it's that was my thoughts on that. But that's going to be finished. What else? Oh, there's a new car.
A new car.
Yeah, which arrived yesterday at 3 in the morning. Well, I should say I arrived with it. Just lots more silly cars.
So if you arrived with it, that means it's driving.
Shockingly, yes, which is new territory.
That is new.
Yeah. So yeah.
And it drove a long way as well, I hear.
It did drive a bloody long way. So it's, yeah. I think what's coming, a lot of new weird cars. I love showing off these bizarre things that people have forgotten. So I'll keep trying to do that.
So stuff that's been locked away is coming back.
Yeah, absolutely.
And you're resurrecting things and also creating new wonderful machines.
That's the plan.
Why
Yeah.
not?
Yeah.
Why not? So what advice would you give to aspiring content creators in the automotive space?
Just try and get it out. It doesn't matter if it's a really basic episode. It doesn't matter if you don't achieve that much. A new pressure I put myself is to try and make significant progress every week.
Yeah.
Because I know that's enjoyable, and it's satisfying for me as well. But it's not at all possible at the beginning because you need to figure out how it all works and how this hobby fits into your life.
Yeah.
So I'd say just try and get something out, and doesn't matter if it's not perfect, doesn't matter if you spend an hour just trying to get a bolt out, just get it done.
Yeah.
You'll slowly start to carve away at what you want to do and what style of videos you want to make.
So you'll find your niche and you'll find your way of doing it.
Yeah, I mean, as I say, like with the kit car thing, I had no idea that was going to end up being sort of an avenue. This was always something I enjoyed, but I never thought anybody would give a monkeys. But
Well, they do.
yeah,
That's
funny.
good.
Yeah.
Cool. So how can your viewers connect with you or support your channel?
I'd say the biggest thing to support the channel is just to continue watching, liking, subscribing, commenting. Sounds so cliche, but
It does, but
actually
it's the way.
that is the way. By doing that, the channel keeps growing. YouTube still is kind and shows people the videos, which essentially enables me to afford to make an episode each week. It's so yeah, just keep.
And what a lot of
watching.
people don't know as well is that it helps your content if people don't skip through the ads.
It does, yeah.
So if you can, there's the YouTube algorithm,
Yeah.
as it's known. It works on all kinds of things, and it's all quite
Yeah.
finicky. And the more you do to keep it happy as
Yeah.
a subscriber or a viewer, the more the channel grows.
Yeah, because watch time is one of the biggest things that encourages YouTube to push the videos, and I completely understand. With every video, you can see where people have skipped, and
Yeah.
sponsor segments are always completely tank,
Yeah.
which I get it because I do exactly the same.
Yeah, it doesn't. But
So it's a tricky one, but at the same time, views mean sponsorships, and sponsorships affords the parts.
Yeah.
We're at a really interesting point where, because I've adjusted, I'm putting out a lot more content, even though the channel sort of is more viable financially. It still completely sort of breaks even. Just there's been a couple of I think this month we'll have sort of like £100 profit.
don't get giddy with that now.
But then again,
Please
when you
don't.
probably look at that across a year, it won't be. So it's just keep liking, subscribing. That helps make the episodes possible. Keep sponsors interested,
Yeah.
who are vital. I'm so grateful for people sponsoring.
Well, they keep the lights on, don't they? Really?
Yeah, exactly. Oh, absolutely. That's a huge thing, and I know sometimes people get complacent with sponsors.
Yeah.
I try and make it very obvious this is a sponsored segment, but the videos just wouldn't be possible.
So when you say those words, if people feel like skipping, your channel's run on tea. I
Yeah,
see
go have a cup of tea.
You got a cup of tea. Well, go and put the kettle on.
Yeah,
Come back.
exactly. Yeah.
It'll be over. You don't have to skip it. So
Yeah.
that always helps. So finally, you recently said anything's a hammer,
Yeah.
and I don't believe you have many tools.
No.
In fact, most of them are behind me in there, and
Yeah.
it's you could fill maybe a tea trolley
It's sparse. Yeah.
with it. Is having all the latest tools and gadgets important in this kind of game, or can your viewers kind of follow your example and crack on creating their dream car just with the basics?
It certainly, I mean, having more tools and more space and electricity and a water supply makes things easier. It definitely makes things easier, but I don't think it should sort of cause any issues. I mean, the Nova's a good example. We don't that's my situation. We don't have power. We don't have water. We've got the little solar generator thing, but that's it. So you don't need any of these things, and also they're just not attainable. You know, spending £500 on anything is just ridiculous. So if you just go to Halfords, if you can stretch to get one of their advanced toolkits, which has all the sockets and everything.
They have sales sometimes. So
Yeah, and they do actually sort of drop them 50% in those sales.
Yeah.
That will see you a long way.
It will, yeah.
You know, and I think I've got an angle grinder, I've got the Ooga Dooga, a drill, and I now have the reciprocating saw.
The dangerous saw.
Yeah. But that's it.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
And if people aren't chopping cars up, they don't need half of that.
Exactly, yeah.
So people who are thinking, can I do this? You know,
Yeah.
is it possible? If they've got a driveway,
Yeah.
it's next to the house, they've got an extension cable, they've got water,
Yeah.
they've got some kind of cover.
You're already doing better than what I've got.
Yeah.
The thing is, with the first half of the Nova series, because I think it was the first episode was washing it. I then had to transport the car to my parents' house so I could wash it. Then I couldn't be asked to bring it back home, so I was doing that. So I had the benefit of water and power for the first few episodes,
Yeah.
but didn't have cover. So if you've got a garage with electricity and water, you're laughing. And just get a Halfords Advanced Toolkit, not sponsored. That would be quite nice though.
If they're watching,
Yeah,
please, yeah.
that'd be cool. That is plenty. Yeah.
Sounds like a plan.
Yeah.
So, thank you, Charlie. Thank you for spending the time and explaining to us where it all came from, why you do it, where it's going. We wish you all the best for the future, and let's see some more crazy cars getting out there on the road.
Absolutely. Yeah. Thank you very much for having me.